And yeah, as the minhag is that we make a siyum to 9 days. I believe in a Chabad. We do it also to Tubav. So we're making a siyum here on Maseches Beis, hilchos Yom Tov, which speaks about muktzah. And on Yom Tov, we know that muktzah is more severe than on Shabbos. So the last Mishnah in the Masechta speaks about muktzah. Which animals are you allowed to shecht? We know you're allowed to shecht on Yom Tov for Eichel Nefesh. You're allowed to shecht animals. And the question is, which animals are you allowed to shecht on Yom Tov? So it says that the midbariyos, the animals that are called midbariyos are not allowed to shecht. And the beis you're allowed to shecht. What's midbariyos? Midbariyos are the wild animals. And the beis is the domestic animals you are allowed to shecht. Why? Because the domestic animals, you had in mind to shecht it. Before Yom Tov came in, you had in mind that you will eat from it. You might be short on meat, so you ought to shecht it. On the contrary, the midbariya is the wild animals. You don't have in mind to shecht it. It's not on your right. It's not an animal that you rely on. That if you're short on meat, you'll go ahead and find this animal. So the Gemara is asking which animals are considered wild, which ones are considered domestic. So there's a machlekes. The Rabbanan say the wild animals are those that go out and pasture and only come back at the winter. During the summer, you don't find them. In the winter, they come back to the city. Those animals are considered wild, even though they come back to the city during the winter. You're not allowed to shecht them. What are considered domestic ones? Those that go out during the day and come back at the evening. The rabbi says what is considered? No, rabbi says no. Rabbi says both of those animals are considered domestic. Which animal is considered wild? Those that go out and never come back. Those are wild. So comes out from here, says the Gemara, the Rebbe holds of muktzah. Those animals that go out and never come back, let's say it happens to be on Yom Tov, this animal entered the city, you're not allowed to shecht it. Comes out the Rebbe holds of muktzah. We see the Rebbe doesn't hold of muktzah. Where do we see this? The Rebbe says, Reb Shimon, the son of Rebbe, asked him, unripe dates, are you allowed to eat them on Yom Tov? According to Reb Shimon. Says, Rebbe answered his son, according to Reb Shimon, you're allowed to eat them because Reb Shimon doesn't hold of muktzah on Yom Tov. Doesn't hold of muktzah, period. So we see that the Rebbe himself holds like Reb Shimon, that there's no muktzah, and there shouldn't be an issue with muktzah on Yom Tov. So the question is, why did the Rebbe say that you're not allowed to eat the wild, you're not allowed to shecht the wild animals? So answers the Gemara 3 answers. The first answer is that even Reb Shimon holds a very extreme case of muktzah. Reb Shimon does hold. For example, when you explicitly said you don't want to eat it on Yom Tov. So those animals is like this extreme case of muktzah. The second answer is that Rebbe only said the opinion of Reb Shimon, but he himself holds of muktzah. The third answer is that Rebbe doesn't hold of muktzah, but Rebbe was telling to the Rabbanan, you Rabbanan, that you do hold of muktzah. So what's considered wild? Those animals that never come back. So those are the 3 answers that we have in the Gemara. So yeah, with this the Gemara concludes. Says, so we see over here 2 things. First of all, we see that the beginning of the Masechta and the end of the Masechta discuss muktzah. The Rebbe always said at the beginning, masmichen, the end to the beginning. So over here we see the beginning and the end are very much connected. The beginning of the Masechta speaks about muktzah, also the end speaks about muktzah. That's yeah. Now we also see a second thing is a little bit on the Avodah side. Avodas Hashem. So, what is an animal? So we know that in Chassidus we say that the animal is the nefesh habahamis. Now the question is, what's considered a wild animal and what's considered a domestic animal? So one step before that, what's considered shechting? So shechting, according to Chassidus, is if you can elevate the animal. In the shachat elav mashach, that's what the Alter Rebbe said. That shechting is elevating the animal. Comes the question on Yom Tov, which animal could you elevate? So there's the wild animal and there's domestic. Domestic animal you could elevate, and the wild animal you can't elevate. What's a domestic one? The one that comes back in the evening. What does it mean the evening? The evening means when there's hard times. And he comes back to his home. He comes back. He goes back to his roots. He relies on his roots. And that's called, that is what we call a domestic. What's considered the wild one? Something which goes out and only comes back during the winter. Goes away for the whole summer. Says Rebbe. Rebbe, we know Rebbe Yehuda Nasi was the Nasi, and he so the Rabbanan, which is they go on the tzibur, most people, those that never come back, those only come back in the winter, are considered wild. You can't elevate them. You're not on that level to elevate such animals. Comes Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and he sees the good in every single yid. So he says that those that come back during the winter is considered. You could elevate them. Even such a yid, which in the real hard times, or when he gets a real kvetch, he comes back to Yiddishkeit and he searches and he goes back to his home. He's considered an animal that you could elevate. He's considered a domestic animal. And even further says the Gemara, and that's the third answer of the Gemara, that according to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he doesn't hold the muktzah at all. He said, only according to you, Rabbanon, you Klal Yisrael, who should you deal with? Deal with such a yid, which has such a shaykhis. But according to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi himself, he doesn't hold the muktzah at all. Even such a yid, which doesn't come back in the city, not in the winter, not in the summer. He's a wild animal. Even such a yid is shaykh to be elevated, and the yisaid over here is that daite elevate. He has in mind even such a yid, and that's why you could elevate such a yid. That's this word. The second word is we want to say over here, what's the shaykhis of tuba of? This whole siyumim. So there be in the end over here you have from the Ramah, he says that you see in the end of the Masechta that where do we see to make a yomtiv when you make a siyum, right? If you make a siyum, you use a yomtiv and you can eat meat. Some cries in when they make a siyum and then they go ahead and they can eat meat. So it says over here is because we can learn from Tubav. There was a simcha on Tubav. Why? Because then they finished cutting the wood for the mizbeach. So why was it such a big simcha? Because since they finished the mitzvah, that brought a simcha. And he says from here we see also when you make a siyum, you should bring out it's a simcha when you make a siyum. So yeah, it says over here the Gemara, the last answer, you should at least admit to me, agree to me, if they go out in the Pesach, meaning when the summer starts, spring starts, and they come back, Bevir Rishayna, Marcheshvan time, when the first rain comes down, winter, that they're considered the beis, they're considered domestic. No, we hold them at the bari yasin. Nog veel thing. He doesn't know. אמר לי בשלום לא ישקע כדך כבם חייסנה ברוך אתה נבין אחי אומרים צהל ועוד אנחנו עשינו שם דחקים ביש ביס מדרש שם דחקים ביש ביס שם משקים משקים דבתים משקים דבתים on מסחר מין מסחר he on rotem him خاين بابا him rotem وشاخ شمع عتم شاخ ومن اللي تبخ ونقنا مش مخيرم وذا سايم لما عامل اسمه بالعصر اللي كان مش قاضي سم الشيخ بيعرف خوش قلت انا مع مريم تميد خم يعمل لي لزاري شيء تومش حتى بي زاري مع دايم كان بيبقى تاخذ انا غاش مدخل وجيت تساق كيب ما خو يتوقش خايم شلون Iskada Shmirabo, Yom the Khus Bamkhus, Bakon Bakon Mishiche, Bekhayk and Mikhan Khai the Khabi, Sabagos Man Korvim Romain, Hey Shmiram Mavalach Lam, the Mayus Barak, which Abak Sport Besam Misnas, is always a social media culture, Ebika Bakasi, which lost the Hamas, the Mamma Romain. The Sav, other bone, Malta Midim, Kodam, some of them come on those Congress, the Bras, or Hadim, the Khos, and the Khanch, and Mamachin, Khis, Nachman, and Nikhmas, and Vikhor over economy, called no English might be Romain. Hey Shlom Rabba, Minch Mai, Maham, the Mulim, Kolisov in Romain. أي شيء شلون منين ويا شلون منين ما كل يسوى بمرامين. شكاية يفرس.
Someone told me that it was clear in Russia. name is He's a
H-U-S-S. My name is F-U-S-S.
H-U-S-S.
Where's he from?
Yep. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're holding Perek Zayin. Perek Zayin, Halachat Esvav. Right. Perek Zayin, Halachat Esvav. Zayin, Halachat Esvav. Yes. So until now, we learned about the various types of kedusha, starting from Eretz Yisrael, being the more holy than the rest of the nation, of the rest of the lands. And now we're holding about already beis. We learned about various types of cities, and then we learned about Yerushalayim, and now we're learning about the actual Temple Mount. Let's see what the Rambam tells us about beis. beis mekudosh mimenu. beis is even more holy than Yerushalayim. In what way? She'ein zovin vezoves nidois veyoldois nichnosin lesham. Various types of tumah people are not allowed to go there. Umuto lehachnis ameis atzmi beis, but a dead person, a dead body, they're allowed to bring it into the beis. Then tzarich leimar tmei meis shu nichnos lesham. And obviously, a person who touched the dead body is allowed to enter beis. What? Okay, so very good. So first you have to do a tevilah, and only then you can go in. We'll see it soon. Okay, so that's what we learned. So something very interesting, because everybody know that a mess is the worst tumah possible, because a mess is called avi avois tumah, the father of all fathers of tumah. Avi avois tumah, the grandfather of all tumahs. Masha ein kain atmemes is a second. Now, Azov is even, if it's even less than that, and then yet you tell me Azov is not allowed to enter beis, but a mess, and obviously someone who got Tommy from a mess, he is allowed to enter beis. Yeah. What? No, it's a very interesting halacha, right? Yeah. And there is a whole explanation of Pikabole about this, but regardless, let's move on. Hachel mekudesh mimen. The first fenced area in the beis, we learned about the chel, is even holier than the rest of beis. In what way? She'ein goyim utmei meis vol nido nichnosim misham. Goyim are not allowed to cross the chel. Those 12 steps leading up to the Ezras Noshim, that are not allowed to cross that area. And by the way, it says that's why the Yevonim did those various holes in the chel, because the whole point of the chel was to show a boundary also for the goyim, that they're not allowed to enter. The Yevonim broke it to show that we could go through. So yeah, just fun fact. Now, Zog the Ravid, af ze midivreim. The kedusha, the special kedusha of the chel is not a deiraisa dikadin. It's all the rabbanon. Now, what's af ze? This too is the rabbanon. What is he referring to? Let's see. Yuzayin. Ezras noshi mekudeshes min hachel. She'ein tvul yom nichnas lesham. Ezras noshim, that is even holier than the chel. That someone who is tovel and he's still waiting for the day to pass, because only then he can bring his korban, only then he becomes toher. Because even though he went to the mikveh, it's not always enough. So someone who's went to the mikveh, who's technically is kind of toher, but he has to wait till the end of the day. He is not allowed to enter Ezras Noshim. This is the Rabbanon and the Kedin. Aval min ha-Torah, but the Torah tells us, there's no such thing. You went to the mikveh, you are toher. You are not allowed to enter specific area of Ezras Koyanim, right? Or Ezras Yisrael, you're right, because that's part of the Azara, you're still not 100% pure. But Ezras Noshim, what do you mean Ezras Noshim? Ezras Noshim never existed in the Mishkan. So what are you saying? So Zog the Rama, you're right. That's what the Rabbanon Dekadin Chachomim. They came up with this halacha of Ezras Noshim, and they said Ezras Noshim is even more important than the chayil, and the separation between them is someone who went to the mikveh is technically is toyer. Ezras noshim is right before the azorah. You're not toyer yet. You can't come in. That's the chidush of the rabban. Therefore, because it is the rabbanon, if someone came in there, b'shoiget, he does not have to bring a korban of chatos, because again, it's not the eraisi. You can bring a korban on the rabbanon. There's no such thing. So what if though someone came in b'mezid, oksim b'mezid, huh? Chorus, no.
No, it can't be because
it's the rabbanon.
So what's the?
So he's getting Ibn Kop.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's getting what?
Ibn Kop.
What is that? Smack him with the gun.
Yep. That's amazing. We're talking about chatos is only comes b'shegeg. So we're talking about b'shegeg. Something by mistake. He went to the mikveh. Let's say Mashiach comes. Everybody knows. I went to the mikveh. I'm toeh. He walked into the Ezras Noshim. Like, dude, you're still not Bo Shemesh. The day didn't end for you. You're still kind of tummy. You went to the mikveh. God's couldn't find. I'm sorry. So, okay, sorry, he's running out. Do I have to bring a korban? He tells you, no, it's the rabbanon. You're not allowed to do this, but it's the rabbanon. You don't have to bring a korban. Yep. Ezras Yisrael mekudeshes me'ezras noshim. The first area of Ed Zara that we said is called Ezras Yisrael is holier than the Ezras noshim. She'ein mechusar kippurim nichnas lisham. That someone who did not bring his korban is not allowed to enter that area. Someone who is tomeh, and he still did not bring his korban. Why is it? Because someone who was tomeh, he went to the mikveh, and the day was done, but he still has to bring a korban, so he could enter Ezras Noshim. He could go up the steps, but to actually enter Ezras Sol, not yet. He can't do it. The tomeh shenichnas lo chayav kores. And if a tomeh, someone who is impure, did walk in over there, okay, dude, this is already a completely different area. This is a deiraisa situation. If someone walked there by mistake, he has to bring a chatos, a mamash korban, because this is a deiraisa area. This is mamash machne shchina. Ezras koyani mekudeshes mimeno. She'ein Yisrael nichnosim nishom. A regular Jew, cannot enter the area. Ela b'shos tzorchem l'smicha v'l'shchita v'l'tnufa. Can only enter there for a reason. Now, Ezras Yisrael, why was it called that? Now, what about Ezras Yisrael? It's also part of the Azor, right? Mashma, that a regular Jew could have entered Ezras Yisrael. Why? Because there was a special duchen. Remember, we spoke about there was a special duchen in Ezras Yisrael where the regular Yidden used to stand and daven over there. They were not allowed to sing. They were not allowed to play instruments, but they were davening. It says they were davening, pashat on the korbanos, kapor and everyone, etc., etc. So the regular Yid was allowed to enter that area almost without a proper purpose of avoiding Beis Hamikdash. He was allowed to come in to daven. But further than that, the Ezras Koyanim, he wasn't allowed to step over. He was allowed only to come closer if he had a good reason about the korban himself. He brought a korban. He has to make a smicha on the korban, and he has to make a tnufa, shchita. Now, what about shchita? How does the Rambam know shchita? Meile tnufa and meile smicha. It's something that the Bailim have to do themselves. But shchita, the Kohen should have done it. How does the Rambam know that the owner of the korban was allowed to come in? But the answer is, the Torah tells us that shchita ksheira bezor. It doesn't have to be a Kohen. Meaning, the Torah tells us, and now you can only shech the beime in the Azorah, where you're allowed to shech. How could it be both? Obviously, for shchita, a person is allowed to come in to shecht. So the Rambam learns, we know that a bailim of the korban is allowed to come in for three reasons: for smicha, to place your hands on the behemoth; for shchita, and for the tnufa, that you have to be maile. Yeah. What? The smicha, the shchita, the tnufa. What is it? No, I only have the smicha, shchita, the tnufa.
There's a different. Street that has India, it's at kapara.
So the Rambam kilo. Pashtus. Okay. I mean, kapara probably is a korban, right? I mean, what's kapara?
You have to say vidi. What is the vidi? No.
Okay. Yes. Usually kapara is the actual zrikas dam. It's explained. That's something that the Bailim for sure didn't do. Should not. It's a vid of the kohen. So whatever. I don't know. Beino ulam v'la mizbeach Now, so that was the Azor, right? Bein ulam v'lamizbeach, between the ulam, the main building, I mean the front part of the Beis Hamikdash and the Mizbeach, is even holier than the rest of the Azor. The what? She'ein ba'alei mumin ufruye roish ukuriv godim nichnasin nisham der. Even koyanim, not all koyanim are allowed to enter there. Which ones? Ba'alei mumin, those who cannot do aved in Beis Hamikdash, those who did not cut the hair on time, and those who come in, and those who have the big dikuna are ripped, that are not allowed to go into that area, even though they're koyanim. So it's mashma over here. That if a Baal Mum is allowed to walk around the Dazor, he's just not allowed to walk in to cross over. It's very interesting. So there was Pashta, an area in Beis Hamikdash was basically completely off limits to anyone who was not a kohen. As was koyanim. That's it. And the heichal was even holier than the area between the ulam and the mizbeach. What?
Why did I put the gun for? Is it novel?
No. His clothes got ripped. Yeah.
You're gonna be into the cleaning.
Right. Yeah. The heichal is even holier from the area between the ulam and the mizbeach. The kohen, who is not a Baal Mum, who comes in to do the work, he's only allowed to walk in first. First, he has to purify his hands and legs. Yeah, ad kedei kach. Beis kodesh hakodoshim mekudash mimenu, and kodesh hakodoshim is even more holy than this. She'ein nichnas l'sham el kohen gadol b'yom kippurim b'sh'as ha'aveda. That a kohen gadol is only the kohen gadol, not even a regular kohen. Only a kohen gadol is allowed to enter that place only once a year. And only b'shas ha'aveda, and only when he comes there on purpose. Meaning that the Kohen Gadol cannot just decide, you know what, it's Yom Kippur today, I'll just walk into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Says, Mister, you can't do it. You can only walk in there when you have a purpose. That's how important Kodesh HaKadoshim is. There was an area on top of Kodesh HaKadoshim. Over there you can only enter once every 7 years. To know what to do to fix it. There was no Aved over there. There was nothing to do over there. It was empty. Why? And a person, and there was still a person once every 7 years had to go in and check if there's anything to be fixed. Yep. Now, let's put it this way. Not all kohanim are working construction. Right? So let's say you're a kohen. You walk in there once in 7 years. Or let's say, you know what, you're a builder. You walk in once in 7 years. You see that you need to fix something. The problem is, you have no idea where to start. You have no idea how to do it. So what are the rules exactly? Who is allowed to come in? Etc. Let's see. When the builders used to come in to build and fix in the heichal, right? In the place where we just said you can't just walk in. Or to take out something which is tumah. Let's say there's a psasheretz over there that for whatever reason only a specific type of person can take it out. Mitzvah nichnosim koyanim tmimim. The mitzvah, the best thing would be if a kohen who is not a Baal Mum would come in to do it. What's the halacha if loy motzut mimim? If they didn't find anyone who a professional, a specialist who has both arms, he's missing one of his fingers. What can we do? As he so even a person who has a Baal Mum, if you don't have anyone else, even if a Kohen Baal Mum can also come in. And if there are no Koyanim in Konsul Levi, a Levi should come in. Loi Motz Levim, you can't see Yisrael. So when there is a reason, even a Yisrael can come into the Heichal to fix that area. Mitzvah b'tehoirim. So it's a mitzvah to find a pure person. Loi Motz Tehoirim, you can't see Tmeim. Tamu Baal Mum, yikonis Tamu val yikonis Baal Mum. Shatumu d'chuya b'tzibu. It says, let's say you found two Yid, one is pure, but he's missing a finger. The other one is impure, but he's whole. Which one should come in? So the halacha says, so the Rambam says, if you don't have any other choice, so Baal Mum is fine also. But it is better to let in someone who is impure but whole, rather than someone who is pure but not whole. Why? He said because when it comes to the tzibur, when it comes to the public, tumah is not a factor. It's explained. It speaks about the tzibur, the tumot chuyev tzibur. When the situation tells us that we have most of the tzibur who are tome, or in this case, for example, the only person who can do it is tome. So it is better to find. So the tumah is if considered not a factor over here. We ignore completely the factor of tumah. A Baal Mum is a Baal Mum. There's no such thing about a Baal Mum. A Baal Mum is a Baal Mum, and that's it. Tumah, when it comes to the tzibur, when it comes in reference to tzibur, to the public, to the general public, we ignore it. It's not a factor. Obviously, if you have someone who is pure, that is better. But in comparison to a Baal Mum, someone who is impure is better. Okay, because it's tchuya b'tzibur. There's a rule when it comes to halacha, when it comes to tumah in reference to a general public, tumah is not a factor.
I thought a Baal Mum is a distraction, and that's why it couldn't be the Baal Mum.
That's something else. That's a different thing. That's about duchni.
Yes, I'm saying.
Yeah, but over here we're talking about coming in to fix something.
So,
construction.
But the whole idea of a mum is a distraction. If there's no one coming in there, there's no one.
It's not only that. It's a kohen who's a Baal Mum cannot do proper aveda. Meaning a Baal Mum by definition is a problem for beis hamikdash. So we say if someone is a Baal Mum, he has a problem for beis hamikdash, so it's a problem. If you don't have anybody else, might as well. But if you have someone who is whole but is impure, listen, impurity is not a factor when it comes to the general public. When it comes in comparison with the, so now it's something interesting. The Rebbe actually, okay, you know what? Let's continue. Let's finish this perek, and then I'll mention something the Rebbe pointed out, something amazing. Anyone. We said after, it doesn't matter. It could be the word should be worse. He comes in to fix the heichol. They should bring them down in special boxes. They would know exactly where the problem is. They used to like bring him down with ropes in the boxes. Yeah. And if there are no boxes, no elevators, so to speak, or it's the problem is located in a place where there's just no way to do it. You consider psochim. He's allowed to walk in. And then the Rebbe points out that these rules. One second, we still have time, no? Yeah. The Rebbe points out that everything we just said is referred also to the most holy place in beis hamikdash. Not even in Kodesh HaKadoshim, but the Aliyah above Kodesh HaKadoshim. That you're only allowed to enter there once every 7 years. That someone who is a Yisrael, who is impure, who could even be a Baal Mum, if he's the only qualified person he's allowed to walk in, derech psochim, through proper regular entrance, a bit to fix it. How come? So the Rebbe gives the whole sikha, but the point is that it's explained that this particular part of above, which the aliyah above Kodesh HaKadoshim is reference to the etzem haneshama. The essence being of a yid. Essence being of a yid. Even more than Kodesh HaKadoshim. It's such a place you can only migalate once in a blue moon, once every 7 years. It's really not simple to get there. But whenever there is something to be fixed, every yid is eligible to do this. Why? Because every yid on that level, everybody is the same. So if there's something to fix in Kodesh HaKadoshim or higher than that, it doesn't matter who you are. You can do it, you will do it. It doesn't matter if you are Kohen Gadol. It doesn't matter if you are Kohen Bichlal. It doesn't matter if you are Levi. It doesn't matter if you're impure and Baal Mum. If you're a Yid, you can do it. It's interesting. What if Take? What about? But it's interesting that Dafka Yid can do it. Can a Goy do this? No. So what do we see from here? That the main thing over here is to be fixed only by a Yid. It's not about the fixing. It's about that the Yid would fix. A Goy cannot fix this. If he's the only professional who can do it, then what? It doesn't matter. You can't walk in. That's it. There's nothing to talk about. Yep. Let's continue a bit further down in Perek Shmini. We have 5 minutes. Now there is a very interesting topic about, so to speak, protecting beis hamikdash, putting up guards on beis hamikdash. Let's see inside. Shmiras hamikdash mitzvahs asay. It is a mitzvah to put protection on beis hamikdash. And even though there's nothing to be worried about, there are no enemies, there are no thieves, or whatever that is, there is still a mitzvah to put up guards. Because this is not for preventive protection. Rather, it's respectful protection, like putting up like honor guard. You cannot compare a palace which has honor guard to a palace that doesn't have an honor guard. You could be the nicest palace, but if you don't have any honor guard around, it's nicht b'kovedik. Beis Hamikdash must have honor guard. What? Yeah, for example. Now, the interesting thing is, what is the Rambam really saying in this halacha? He tells us it's a mitzvah to give koved to Beis Hamikdash, which sounds like a continuation of the previous perek, right? We said that the mitzvah to fear Beis Hamikdash, and therefore to respect Beis Hamikdash. He says like it sounds like a continuation, and yet the Ram doesn't reference that pasuk. He references a different pasuk. Forget it, right? Why doesn't the Rambam mention the other pasuk as well? If you, the Rambam, you tell me yourself it's mitzat koved, why don't you mention the pasuk you said in the beginning of the previous perek that you have to respect Beis Hamikdash? That's why you're not allowed to act frivolously around Beis Hamikdash, right? Therefore, you should also put protection on a guard on Beis Hamikdash. Why doesn't he say that? Why does he have to find a different pasuk to tell us the mitzvah to say? Let's move on to the next halacha, and we'll see the question becomes even stronger. And this honor guard protection, guarding, is the whole night, to be there full night. Who is the honor guard? It says in the pasuk, Ato uvonecho itoch lifnei oyel edus, as if to say, Atem tihu shoimrim lo, you, the koyanim and the levim, you will be the honor guard for the Beis Hamikdash. And we also learned in the pasuk, V'shomris mishmeres oyel moyed, and you must protect, be the honor guard of the Mishkan. V'nemar v'achaynim kedim lifnei oyel moyed mizracha, Moshe ve'Aaron uvonav sheim mishmeres hakodesh. Now, what if they didn't do it? What if they did not protect Beis Hamikdash? What if they were not the honor guard of Beis Hamikdash? Dog the Rambam, v'im bitlu shmira zu ovru belo yisaseh. Shenemar ushmartem es mishmeres hakodesh. Ulashon shmire azhori. The word shmire is like yishomru lochem. Beware not to. So same what? So he says if they didn't, right? But shmire, the word shmire is like beware. It's also a word of beware. So beware not to do what I told you to do. This is only
by night, not by day.
Yeah.
Because everyone was there during the day.
So now the question becomes even stronger.
No, that day also why not?
It says clearly only by night.
Honor guard should be by day also, no?
Yeah, but shmire, but the word shmire, protection, probably only refers. Yeah, but yeah, it's a covet, but it's also you also use the word protection. Like shmire means to protect the guard. And the guard is not when there's a lot of people around, but rather when nobody's around, whether it's locked officially. When is it? At night. Now, the interesting thing is that, again, the question. The Rambam told us in the previous perek that I have to give koved to Beis Hamikdash. How do I know this? From the pasuk that you have to fear Beis Hamikdash. And from there we learn some mitzvahs say. Why doesn't it say over here that if you did if you were an honor guard for Beis Hamikdash, you mekayim two mitzvahs? If you are being an honor guard, you mekayim two mitzvahs. First, this mitzvah over here to be an honor guard, and second, the mitzvah to fear Beis Hamikdash. נכון, מקדוש תירו. מה הרמב"ם אמר במקדוש תירו בתחילת פרק ז'? I'll read it. Forget it. מיצווה say לעירו מן המקדוש, שנאמר מקדוש תירו, ואיזו עירוסי, that you have to respect it, שלא ייכנס להר הבית במקלוי, ומינו לשב ורגלו פרדוסוי, קיצור, you have to respect Beis Hamikdash in all ways. Then over here, if you Rambam tells me as well, it's mitzvah the koved, then why does he say, okay, I'm mekayim both mitzvahs? I'm doing two mitzvahs, I say over here. Say mikdosh tiro, and say v'shomu is mishmeres v'shomu is mishmeres sol moed, yeah? And the answer is, go with pashtus. The mitzvah over there, and by the way, this is also would explain Takef. So on one hand, it would explain why the Rambam Taki can start with Perek Shmin as a continuation, the follow-up from the previous Perek. But yet the Rambam decided not to put it together because it's two different things. How is it two different things? In the previous, because if you think about it, it's a very simple difference. In the Mikdash Tiro, what we learn from there is you have to fear Beis Hamikdash, meaning you have first what comes is the fear of Beis Hamikdash. Poshet, you must be scared of such a holy place, right? You have to fear the place, and from the fear comes respect, meaning it's a negative movement over here. It's a negative tnuah. You are afraid of Beis Hamikdash, which is why you're not doing silly things around Beis Hamikdash. It's the negative side, what you shouldn't be doing.
It's a titzah.
Yeah, but it's a negative titzah.
No, I'm
What
saying
you right?
The fact that you end up guarding it, that's a titzah by.
No, but on the other, no. So again, if you are scared of something, right? If you're scared, let's say you're walking around. If you walk down, what's it called, in a road, in a trail in a safari, right? And then you see a lion comes towards you. Are you trying to tell him a joke? No, you're running away. Meaning you're respecting the situation, right? You are like kind of scared, so you are like appreciating the situation in a completely different light. Kind of scared, yeah. Some kind of scared, yeah. But over here, it's not a matter of being scared. It's a matter of Pashat have a positive respect to the place. You should positively respect. You should give something. Forget about not acting frivolously. You should definitely put into this. You have to put up an honor guard. Therefore, the Rambam says there's completely two different things, two different types of respect. One we call respect mitzad the fear that it goes through you, and the other thing, and the other type of respect is not about your fear. It's about what you have to put up in Beis Hamikdash. You have to put up honor guard in Beis Hamikdash.
It says it's also the Zohar and a commission coming.